Hello and welcome back to the Baggies Podcast YouTube channel, where of course we're giving you all the latest news, views and opinions on all things Albion. We are back again today with another video. Of course, been a little bit of a while, about a week and a half since we've uploaded the last video. Of course, I haven't been feeling too well myself, so just been kind of waiting for that to pass so I can get a video out without coughing every 5 seconds or whatnot. But yeah, it's fantastic to be back, making some content for you. A lot of videos over the next few days, days, of course, with no match this weekend. We'll be kind of catching up on the content that I've missed. So, yeah, we'll start off by talking about new signing Brandon Thomas-Asante. Of course, you all know he's signed. You all know he scored on his debut as well, I'm sure you do. But we'll be chatting through the pros and cons of this deal, kind of discussing the details of it, and speaking about what he can kind of offer Albion. Of course, we've seen a little glimpse, and a very good glimpse for that matter, against Burnley. But we're looking forward to seeing a bit more from him, and let's find out, a little bit more what we can expect from him. So yeah, you'll be getting all of that in today's video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new. Make sure you comment your thoughts on the new signing below. And let's crack on. Let's talk about Brandon Thomas-Asante.
You're watching the Baggies Podcast YouTube channel. For match previews, match day vlogs, match reactions, and more, make sure to subscribe to the Baggies Podcast YouTube channel.
So let's start off with the boring bit, we'll call it. Brandon Thomas-Asante, of course, has signed for Albion on a 3-year deal, signing for a £300,000 reported fee from Salford City. 23 years old, of course, formerly of Salford City, played there for the past 3 years of his career. His career's gone a bit like this. Started out at MK Dons, where, of course, he was an academy player, moving to Sutton United and Oxford City on loan. Then played a little bit for Ebbsfleet before being snatched by Salford City in 2019 in September. So, yeah, with him, I think it's a big one. It's a bit of a different signing for Albion. I think that's probably the word to use for it. It's not a typical Albion signing. I think the last time we really reached into the lower leagues or lower football leagues to find a signing, it's probably looking back at Connor Townsend from Scunthorpe. I think that'll probably be the last one. But he can also, he's a striker, can also play as a winger. That's how they described him on the website, which I think is quite interesting. But for me, I think he's more of a winger moving into that striker position. I think a little bit like Grant, where he can't quite make up where he fits in that sort of zone, but he'll fit in there somewhere, that's for sure. And he certainly did last Friday night against Burnley. But yeah, let's talk a little bit more about his record at Salford City and kind of what he's brought to them, rather than what he's going to bring to us. And let's see if we can kind of translate that. His best season at Salford City was undoubtedly last season, with 11 goals and 4 assists coming in 39 games. So one of the better players in League Two. I mean, speaking to a few people who have seen him playing his football at Salford, say that he's a really dangerous player, and a lot about him is very explosive, very powerful, very pacey. So I think, that last season for Salford was pretty decent for him. 11 goals, 4 assists. I mean, that's massive. The 2 seasons before, 5 goals, 3 assists, and then 6 goals and 4 assists in 1920 in his first season for Salford. So that's quite interesting too. Coming into this season as well, I mean, he's already played 6 games for Salford, scored 4 goals and got 2 assists, which I think is absolutely mental. And then obviously coming into Albion and getting his 1 goal. So overall, his season stats, 7 games played, 5 goals, and then 2 assists provided as well. So I think that's really interesting for me. The fact that he started off this season with a real bang. And I think the reason we kind of sign him, I think, is more to do with Steve Bruce's son-in-law, Matt Smith, who is, of course, I think is still playing for Salford. I'll have to check up on that, but definitely was playing for Salford. And he recommended looking at Brandon Thomas-Asante. Matt Smith, formerly of Millwall, his son-in-law, recommended Brandon Thomas-Asante, which I think is pretty interesting. Says a little bit more about our scouting team than maybe we originally thought. But I've got a feeling that Brandon Thomas-Asante wasn't towards the top of the list, but I think that he was a player that Albion were looking at, and I think, somebody that was recommended to Steve Bruce, be it in a bit of an unconventional fashion, if we have to say. Let's read out the quote from Steve Bruce. Brandon is a young, hungry forward who's shown great desire and a strong mentality to earn his chance at the club. He's a strong, pacey player who has a good record in front of goal, and I'm sure he's excited to show people what he can do at this level. Brandon further strengthens our attacking options, and his versatility to play across the front line will, I'm sure, be of great value as we continue to take on a busy championship schedule. Thomas-Asante added. I'm over the moon to be joining such a big club. It came about all quite quickly, but as soon as I spoke to Steve Bruce, I realised this was the place for me. I believe I have an eye for goal. I'm confident and I can score here and push the team forward. I can't wait to get started, meet my new teammates, settle into the area and show what the fans, what I'm all about, which I think is really interesting. I think what I've gathered from him so far and those sort of reports is that he's really come in and kind of, he's wowed coaches, I think, with his attitude and his application. I think he appreciates what it's like to be given a chance at a club like Albion. You know, higher end championship, we'll call ourselves, even though we're not quite there in the league yet, but our performances have suggested that. I think it's kind of like that with Thomas-Asante. It's kind of a bit like, you know, I know I'm being given this massive opportunity. I've got to take it. I've got to grasp it with both hands, and I've got to put in the work to show exactly what I can do and exactly how I can make it at this level. And I think that's really interesting. Yeah, I think obviously it's going to be a difficult time for him settling in, but he seems to have done it pretty well. Debut goal, of course, against Burnley. Let's chat about that because, I mean, it was a pretty spectacular moment. I mean, Albion have been huffing and puffing. They've had chances galore against the Clarets, but Brandon Thomas-Asante, of course, comes on, crossing into the box from John Swift. It gets nodded down by, I think, a Burnley defender. I think it ends up coming off them. Coming into the box, Thomas-Asante, it's sort of fallen behind him, but he manages to flick it towards goal. And for me, that's kind of a striker's finish, if I have to be honest. That is a striker, improvising on the spot to get a little bit of contact on the ball, to get it into the back of the net. For me, that is kind of what he's done there. And I think that's really interesting, is the fact that he's managed to improvise and show a bit of instinct. I think is something that a lot of our forwards are missing at the moment. Of course, we're missing, the big lad DK up front, which I think is interesting, but we've got to try and get by without him. And I think Thomas-Asante is an interesting thing, and I think they've struck up quite a nice relationship already, the two, Daryl DK and Thomas-Asante. I think if you're watching the Sky Sports coverage, you'll have seen that as Thomas-Asante came off the pitch, Daryl DK was waiting for him to give him a hug, which I think is really nice and shows how integrated DK is with the squad so far. But I think Thomas-Asante, of course, bringing in that opening goal, I think it's just an incredible start for him, and I think an improvised finisher, I think it just goes all the more the way towards showing Albion fans, you know, what they can perhaps expect from him in a finishing point of view. And I think that's really nice because, you know, you look at it and you think he might not be able to, you know, be 20 goals a season, but I think he's a project of work that's worth investing in. You know, only 23 years of age, sorry. I think it's worth kind of taking a punt on a player like that rather than a 30-something player. And I think it shows a nice little shift, perhaps, in a little bit of mentality for the club, is that it's better to invest in a younger player who's going to be a bit hungrier rather than that 30-something that's going to come in and be like, I've already made it, I've already made my money, I've already made my reputation in the Championship, I don't need to do it anymore, rather than, you know, picking somebody like Thomas-Asante and bringing them in. I think it could only help by bringing somebody into the lower league, from the lower leagues, because they're going to be hungry, they're going to want it, they're going to want it more than quite a lot of other players, and I think that's essential for me, and I think that changes a lot of the dynamic of the squad with the player like him coming in. Of course, you've had hungry players like Yakushlu, Wallace especially, coming in as well. And then John Swift too, I think is, you know, three very good mentality players. Martin Kelly, of course, hopefully we'll chat about him in another video coming up soon on the channel. But, you know, to have these kind of mentality players who've got the right mindset and starting to sort of weed out those who kind of made it a bit different for Albion last season with mentality and attitude, shifting some of those out and shifting some of those out, certainly towards the end of this season. I think it's so essential for the club to move forward. But yeah, I'm going to stick some numbers in about Brandon Thomas-Asante now. I feel like it's worth it. Of course, average for last season. All of these will be averages for last season play for Salford. 2.74 shots on target per game. 1.89 crosses, accurate crosses per game. 6.42 successful dribbles per game. 14.57 offensive duels won, 4.17 touches per 90 in the penalty area, 1.7 progressive runs. I think that's really, really good to know. 0.3 goals per game. I mean, you know, he's never really the striker at Salford, kind of playing it in off the left, kind of in a front two at times as well. So I think it's going to be a really big plus to have him in the squad. I think it's just a fantastic signing and somebody who can really add a lot of hunger. And I think, you know, the connections with Cyril Regis, I think, is a really nice touch as well. Of course, he went and got his book signed by the late, great Regis himself. So, and posted that picture on Instagram. I think that's a really nice touch to kind of see a little bit of Albion connection before he joins the club. I think that's never gonna lose with Albion fans with a connection like that, and I think that's brilliant. But yeah, Thomas-Asante, I think has been a really worthwhile investment by the looks of things. Of course, starting off well. It's better not to expect too much. He's not going to be a goal scoring answer straight away. I think it's a little bit of a weird one not to kind of pick up a immediate goal scoring answer, but I do kind of like the club's logic in picking up somebody who's going to be a bit of a benefit in the future. But yeah, that's what we've got to say on Brandon Thomas-Asante, Albion's new signing. Make sure you comment your thoughts down below, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.